Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, look at Johnson! Haven't got it! He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not just second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's gonna do it! Big Barry! Hello everybody and welcome to round 3 of the Radical Race series in season 2 of 2023. We are approaching the quarter distance in this season already, and it's been a very interesting opening couple of rounds as we continue our American tour for the first half of this season. We took a little bit of a break from that last week as we took on the only European round in the first half of the season at Zandvoort, which provided some great racing for us. But we're back on American soil once again tonight with the very well used Sebring International Raceway. It seems that every race series wants to visit this circuit in March, and so that's what we're doing here in this one as well. The usual format returning as it will be throughout the whole of this season pretty much. Sprint and feature coming up, a bit of a shorter race to start us off, reverse grid, and then a bit of a longer one to end the evening's racing off. We're in the SR8 once again, after changing from the SR10 for the last few seasons. We're in the SR8 for good here in season 2, and it's a pleasure to be along once again. My name's Ewan O'Leary alongside James Parfitt here on the JPB YouTube channel. It's great to have that confirmation, James, that we'll be using the SR8 from now on until the end of the season. Some drivers not a fan of the choice, but we're fans of it as spectators and commentators. It's provided great racing for us over the first couple of rounds, and so we can't complain about the SR8 being used for the entire season from here on in.
No, I think that's one of the defining things they had to do. They had to come out and define what was going on. They wasn't sure if there was going to be a fix on the SR10. There doesn't seem to be a fix on the SR10, so therefore they've confirmed, right, scrap that. Instead of sitting around waiting to see whether or not there is a fix coming out, we're just going to run the SR8 all season. And it's great they've done it by round 3 as well, because it gives that opportunity then for you got 9 more rounds, get comfortable in the car and go for it that way. And it is really, they had to make that decision. It had to be done early, and it got done straight away before round 3. So it's good that they are using the SR8. I know a lot of people don't like it. Simon Edwards, for one, is not a fan. I like the car. I think the SR8 is, well, so I think it's better. Personally, I think it's better than the SR10.
Well, yeah, it's up for debate, and as you say, Simon Edwards certainly doesn't, although he does seem to have got himself a nice setup here at the moment. He did say earlier on, by the way, that he was going to join at least practice and then decide on from there whether he was actually going to race or not. And it does seem that he's been able to get himself hooked up quite nicely with Sebring right now, and so he might well race. Let's see, though. The man at the top of the timing screen right now, though, in practice, is Paul LeMay, who's been having a fantastic time of things in the first couple of rounds. He currently leads the championship standings for what it's worth after the opening couple of rounds. He's on 89 points and doesn't have a big advantage at all ahead of Paul Crabb. Jamie Bird is in the third place right now. There they are. Only 9 points back. He's been in third for the first and second round. Now, Sergio De La Cruz with a good run of things in the second round. He jumped up to fourth. Luke Maxwell stays in fifth ahead of Paul Clark. Dan Webster had a disappointing Zandvoort and he drops down, mainly because he didn't attend Zandvoort. That's why he's dropped down. Robert Woodward as well, dropping down a few positions. Wayne Palmer jumped up though and joins George Gonzaga in the top 10. Mike Booson and John McCutchinson attended for the first time this season. They are 11th and 12th as of right now. Patrick Charlton is 13th. Colin Wynn there as well, ahead of Darryl Taylor, who jumped up at Zandvoort. Phil Jocelyn, Paul Godden and Phil Glover ran at the top 18. And then you're getting two drivers who have only really attended one round, like Seth Brown. James Choud certainly has had a good run at Road America, but wasn't there at Zandvoort. Gary Tall, 21st, ahead of Michael LeMay, who stays where he is. David Rolliston plummets through the standings in the last round. Damien G, Dave Kirkman, Graham Brown, Martina Ward and Simon Edwards to round up the 28 drivers that have currently attended races in the Radical Race Series this season. It's very close, as you'd expect it to be after the only a couple of rounds, but considering there's been 130 points available, for the leader to have dropped 41 of those points already is quite a lot, really, and not quite what we're used to.
No, I think the interesting thing about this season, so far considering where we are, and the top 5 are still within 15 points of each other. You know, we're used to Luke Maxwell, John McHutchison, you know, Dan Webster, Simon Edwards all being at the top, but that's not the case at the moment. You know, Paul LeMay is loving this car, he's loving this season, and he's going for an absolute barnstorming way at the moment, and he's sitting first in the championship. Good evening, Darryl Taylor. One of the few tracks I've been to IRL. Good burgers from the place just behind the pits, apparently. So there we go. But I think it's great to see a mix of drivers and not the normal John McHutchison, Simon Edwards, Dan Webster, Luke Maxwell. I think that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, certainly. That's really what this has opened up for. But we were discussing this a little bit before we came on air. Can Paul LeMay carry this through all the way to the end? Because even last season, I know it was with a different car, but I think the point still stands. Dan Webster was able to stay with the likes of Edwards, McHutchison, and also Maxwell right towards the very end, but just tailed off in the last third of the season or so. And that's Dan Webster, who has won a title in the Radical Race Series before, and he has proved that he can hold it for the whole 12 races. What about Paul LeMay, who hasn't been able to win a title in the past and hasn't really been close in the last few seasons either? I do slightly worry that this is all great for now, being championship leader after 2 rounds, but what is it going to be like after, 6, 8, 10? Is he still going to be actually up there, having not quite proved himself over the full 12 rounds just yet?
Well, it depends if Paul LeMay can stay healthy. I think that was one of the things that he struggled with last season, was he had an injury and he couldn't race at certain points and it was hurting and so on and so forth. So hopefully from his point of view, if he can stay healthy this year and can continue in the form that he's running at the moment, I don't see any reason why he can't. He was always near. Oh, Simon Edwards over the bump, too close to the wall, and unfortunately for him, down the pit straight of all places, mounts the wall on the right hand side. And if Paul LeMay can, because he was there or thereabouts last year, I think that was the thing. He was always in the mix when he was racing, and I think for the fact that he's top of the time tower, clearly in the car that he really, really enjoys, I don't see any reason why he can't, as long as he stays healthy. It is all about whether or not he's going to stay healthy this year and hopefully be able to complete the season.
And that is something we don't often talk about in sim racing, but it is required, just as it is in real life as well. I think he was battling for 5th place in the standings, wasn't he, last season, Paul LeMay, despite all that. I can't remember if it was him or Paul Crabb who actually got it in the end. But I think the two of them finished 5th and 6th in one order or the other. But yeah, we'll see if it's any better on this occasion. 10-minute qualifying session coming up then, just beginning indeed right now. We're following Simon Edwards making his way out on the outlap. 3 laps once again, and it's going to be a session that will probably take the whole 10 minutes as well, because it's not like Zandvoort really at all. It's quite a long lap around here, nearly 2 minutes for the best lap. So they're limited to 3 laps, but even if they weren't, they'd probably only be able to get 3 flying laps in anyway. And so this is going to be a very long and drawn out session for the drivers to set the lap times, and there's a lot of time for you to end up making a mistake around here as well.
Yeah, I think that now they've just got to get that initial banker lap in after they've caught that outlap. They can't go too slow on an outlap, because as you say, at nearly 2 minutes a lap, they won't get them in otherwise, so they can't go too slow, but they've got to be able to control the car and warm the tyres up correctly. If they start burning them out on the outlap, they're not going to be able to get a decent lap in, but they have got to get a banker in. One mistake, you're done. So they've got to think about what they're doing. But it's interesting, we talk about injuries like we are talking, in real life, but Colin Wynn was another one last season that suffered as well with an injury in his lower back and his legs, and he literally wasn't able to race either. So it is real for some of these drivers, that sort of feeling that you can't go out, you can't give it 100%. You've got to just, unfortunately, take time off when you need to and rest. But that leaves them plummeting down the standings. So, as we saw with Colin Wynn, I don't think he moved above 144, I think it was, for a very long time last season, if at all, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, Colin Wynne back now when he has attended the first 2 rounds of the season. Currently sits 14th in points, about 45 points off. He's got about half of what Paul LeMay has right now. Lingering just outside the top 10 is Colin Wynne, just as he tends to do in these races. But I think he's back to pretty much full health. He's certainly healthy enough to race and get through these ones. Because they're not long races. You can persevere. Even if you're not 100%, I suppose you can get through it as well if you need to. But yeah, good to see him back on the grid again. The flying laps have just begun then, and there's going to be purple sectors going every which way by the looks of things. George Gonzaga has one of them, or was in and around it.
Yeah, he did just have
11th
one.
in standings. Yeah, currently 11th in standings, tied with Mike Boosson right now. Just on the fringes of the top 10. Simon Edwards also grabbing one and then might well lose it as well. It's going to be one of those sessions where things are going to change quite a lot. And this is good driving so far from Simon Edwards. For someone who doesn't really like this car at all, he is driving well.
Yeah, do you know what though? It's going to be tough, right? It's going to be tough coming from the SR10. They drove it for 26 weeks, nearly half a year, 2 seasons in the SR10.
36.
Was that 3 seasons?
I think it was 36, yeah. 36 weeks, 3 seasons.
I thought it was only 2. Maybe it might have been 3. Yeah, but 3. So then to jump back into the SR8 is a massive difference. You're just, you're flying along, you're used to a car that's got... And then they come out and change it all. And then they go back and decide whether or not, we've got to go into the SR8, boys. This car is just not manageable. So to adapt to that is going to be tough. They are going to have to go and practice. They are going to have to go and... get used to the car again, pick braking points, pick everything, because it is a completely different style of car. And Edward comes across the line in a 153.067, 546 on the clock currently at the moment. Dan Webster's got a couple of purples in there as well. So has Mike Bousson. So we'll give that a minute before we all settle down, because they are going to be a lot of jumping around currently at the moment.
Yeah, Mike Bousson slots into second place there, as you can see. Real big fan of this car, and was absolutely... devastated to miss Road America. That's Paul Crabb coming out the final corner, I think. And he's not had a good time of things. That's going to be down the order for him, I'm afraid. And that's going to ruin his next lap as well. Going off at sunset will not only ruin the one you're on, but also the next one as well. And so that's not great news at all for the 2-time champion. He will, struggle now. He's basically only going to have 1 representative lap time here, and he's going to have to absolutely nail that, which does put a lot of pressure that you could really do without.
Yeah, that's a problem. And the thing is, if that last corner was a hairpin and it was really slow, you wouldn't mind. But it's quite a fast-flowing corner that does build you up for your next one. And unfortunately for him, it all went wrong. So, as you say, that first sector, second sector is going to be struggling in this car, because he's just burnt it all back at the end of the last lap. And that's the problem, unfortunately. He's not going to be able to get the speed up as much as he would want to. So it's going to be tough for Paul, but hopefully he'll get a nice sort of banker lap in at the end of this one. It's not going to be, I wouldn't think it would be pole, but, I'm not saying he won't get a 154.55 in at least.
Well, we'll see where he gets to. We're in the low 53s right now, and we're coming up towards the end of the second round of times as well. For those who are up front, Simon Edwards is not quite going quickly through the second half of the lap, really. He's setting himself up for one last go on the very final lap. Dan Webster seems to be going all right into the final corner, but he's also struggling in the second half of the lap. George Gonzaga moves up to 7th place, a nice improvement, but he's still more than a second away from Simon Edwards, who's half a second away from anyone else. Dan Webster over the line, and now he goes to the front. Luke Maxwell nearly joins him. He's in third, although will be pushed down by Paul LeMay, who is loving this right now. He's on the top of qualifying, just ahead of Dan Webster. That all changed very quickly, and it just shows you what a difference one lap can make in these cars. Yeah,
Paul LeMay, 152.749. What about Crabb's banker lap? Told you 154.55. He's down in 16th. He's got to go again now. This is going to be the one where Paul Crabb has got to literally go hell to leather here to see how he gets on. That was, by the looks of how many laps he's done, that was his actual out lap that he burnt up on the last time. So that was technically his first lap. So let's see how he gets on here. But yeah, he's going to have to go some now to move himself up. But Paul LeMay, told you, loving the car, absolutely flying on a 152.749.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would have thought that Simon Edwards was making everybody else play catch-up through that first lap, but he didn't improve on the second lap there, and now he's the one who has to play catch-up, although it's very, very close indeed. Edwards is going to be one of the first to come over the line. I think he might even be the first, other than Dan Webster, maybe, out of those in the top 5 or so, where I would say they can get pole position. Simon Edwards' body language there doesn't look great, and I'm afraid that might not be enough for him. Dan Webster goes back to pit lane. He knows it's not enough. Paul LeMay could be looking at pole position here, although Mike Bousson and Luke Maxwell will still have their chances as well. Simon Edwards into the final corner, into Sunset Bend. He will go out of the final turn. He'll miss that wall on the left-hand side, unlike in practice. He'll go over the line. Will it be enough? It's enough for third, but not quite pole. Bousson, Maxwell and LeMay are all still out there right now. There's Mike Bousson. He won't be improving with a line like that at the final corner, I'm afraid. And so it won't be for him. Luke Maxwell will improve, but only for so long. He goes to the front, but Paul LeMay steals it from him again. It's a yo-yo qualifying session that Paul LeMay comes out on top in. He's ahead of Maxwell, Webster, Edwards and Bousson, all who had a great chance to get pole there.
Yeah, it's now going to be what can Paul Crabb do? Goes, where do you go? 8th. I think he's on one more. He's got one more and he ain't got a lot of time, if any enough to do it. So it's all on Paul Crabb currently at the moment as well. John McCutcheon has just joined the session. I'm presuming he's going to be starting down at the back end of the field currently at the moment as well. We do have Phil Glover sitting in the waiting room as we normally do, Ewan. Waiting for a good old chat as per normal. We'll try and catch him up with him up at some point.
We certainly will when we get chance to. Somewhere along the line, but there we are. I'm not sure. I could have sworn that Paul Crabb had completed 3 laps already in this session, but clearly not. He's the only driver to have not done so, other than McCutcheon, who's going to just fight his way through from the back. And if he can maybe sneak into the bottom end of the top 10, then he's a great pick for a race 2 win. But McCutcheon doesn't really look like he's taking this championship very seriously in terms of actually having a title challenge. He appeared at Zandvoort, wasn't there for the first round at Road America, but had a very good round at Zandvoort, picking up 50 points. Picked up the most points of anybody that round, I think, well, other than Bousson actually, who also picked up a few more than him, but not many more. He's not really going for the championship, McCutcheon, just looking to have some fun, I think, really.
It's a tough one, really, you know. With the story of the last season and the end races of there as well, it was always going to be tough, you know, and I think John took some time out and sort of thought about what he was going to do, and this is where we're at with him. So let's see how he gets on.
Absolutely. Paul LeMay from the front, though, with Luke Maxwell there as well. Dan Webster, Simon Edwards and Mike Bousson work far away in qualifying. It will be close in the race as well. Wayne Palmer with a great qualifying as well for 6th. Ahead of Patrick Charlton and Paul Crabb, who snuck into 8th at the end. Seth Brown and Dave Kirkman will round out the top 10 with Colin Wynne and Paul Clark sharing row 6. A little bit far down for Paul Clark, really, by his standards. Robert Woodward will be 13th ahead of George Gonzaga, who might well be disappointed with that. Darrell Taylor, 15th with Graham Brown. There's Paul Godden, Phil Glover, Phil Justin and David Beasley of those who set times. John McCutcheon joins us from the back of the grid here in the sprint race. It's going to be a very interesting race as well. Paul LeMay, points leader, having a great time so far this season. It was 2 second places in the 2 races at Road America. Even better and even more successful for him on the Zandvoort round to be able to get that points lead by just 6 points. It's a bit early for talk like that, but it's but I do it anyway, I'm aware. We'll see how he gets on through here. He's got to get through Sebring first. The sprint race coming up with Paul LeMay from the front, Maxwell alongside. The lights will go out and we are racing. It's wheel spin for everybody. Dan Webster through the middle is going to take this along with Simon Edwards, who's on the outside line. They'll go side by side. It's row 2 to the front here with Mike Bousson going through as well. Maxwell's plummeting down the order in this one. He's outside the top 10 before turn 1. In towards turn 3 they go, and Dan Webster has got to the front as Paul LeMay's off. Paul LeMay off turn 3. It's carnage in the background. Wayne Palmer caught up in it along with George Gonzaga, Phil Glover as well. It's been chaos off of this start, and Dan Webster couldn't have drawn that up any better.
No, Paul LeMay was slow off the line, unfortunately for him, and now that has just allowed Daan Webster, Simon Edwards and Mike Bousson to come bullying through. Colin Wynn as well as another one down and sliding down the order. Colin is sat on the side, on the left-hand side, behind the timing tower, unfortunately, but it looks like Paul LeMay has also taken a diver with Gonzaga, Brown and Glover.
Well, that was with the Seth Brown also went around at the hairpin there. He was also involved, but what a chaotic start that was. The front row going nowhere. The second row absolutely everywhere. Daan Webster and Simon Edwards to the front. Mike Bousson gets onto the podium as well. Patrick Charlton's in fourth right now with Paul Crabb getting up 3 places off the start. He's into the top 5, and the 5 of them are getting away from the rest. This is what it's like back in the pack. Luke Maxwell eventually got his way through the carnage and up to 8th place, but that's from the front row. He'll be disappointed as Daan Webster has to slow down. I think he may well have got a slowdown at the exit of Le Mans, and now here comes Mike Bousson to the inside of Sunset Bend. New race leader for the second time on lap 1. Daan Webster drops down the order. I think he did get a slowdown.
Yeah, I think he did coming out of Le Mans. I think he must have taken too much of the curb on the inside there on the left hand around 15 or the right hand around 15, and unfortunately that has slowed him down. That has put Edwards out in front as well. Darrell Taylor battling away here quite nicely currently at the moment with Robert Woodward. All mixed up in the pack. There is this literal no gap. Webster's gone up the inside. He's looking at making a move past Bousson. Not getting him this time, Ewan, but boy oh boy is he looking quick.
Got 4 in the pit lane at the end of lap 1. Paul LeMay, Wayne Palmer, Colin Wynn, David Beasley, all down pit lane. As a result of that, there must have been a lot of contact back in the pack, I'm afraid, as Daan Webster continues to apply the pressure down in towards the hairpin. John McCutcheon's had a fantastic start, by the way. He's up 11 in 1 lap, already inside the top 10. And I thought he would only just sneak in there by the very end of this race, but he's got there by lap 2. So hats off to him as Mike Bousson looks behind and looks at Daan Webster, who is right in the rearview mirror. The top 5 getting away from the rest, and if they're not careful, they're going to allow Simon Edwards away with this.
Yeah, they've got to try and stop. I know it's tough, and we talk about it all the time about stop fighting, but they've got to stop, because otherwise Edwards is going to run away with it. We know Bousson, we know Webster, all of these people are quick. Edwards as well. Bousson was so unlucky not to get a win last season as well, and some due to his own doing. But if he can get away like he is now, the gap's coming down. He's got it down a half a second. He's pulled 2 temps out already out of that last sector. So he is currently absolutely flying here. Is Mike Bousson, and he's doing an absolute stellar job. He's now just got to look and push his way forward. You can see it there. Edwards was slower in sector 4, 5 and 6. Bousson setting purples across the board. So let's see where we're sitting at the end of this lap, Ewan. But I think Bousson is looking racy.
It certainly is, and maybe he'll be able to just get up there and challenge Edwards. But it was the fastest lap of the race so far for the 5-time champion. Through turn 1 they'll go, as Maxwell gets up ahead of Paul Clark, by the way. But that was for 6th place, and also we've got battling between Robert Woodward and John McCutcheon as well. There he is on the inside line. McCutcheon into 8th place. He goes already up 13 in just 2 laps. What a remarkable drive. Dave Kirkman's return to the series is going well as well. He's inside the top 10 ahead of Darrell Taylor. This order is very, very mixed up compared to what you might expect. As a result of all of that lap 1 chaos, I don't think we've quite had a more chaotic lap 1 for quite some time.
No, I think generally they've been clean, but Kirkman did just pass Taylor there, and he's looking to get him back on the end of Woodward. Bousson has got Paul Daan Webster literally for company currently at this moment in time, so it's going to be interesting to see what Bousson does, whether or not he holds him, and that was close. That was very, very close.
Thought Webster was going to stick his nose in where it wasn't wanted there, and there was going to be contact, but of course he had the sense to back out of it. It would have been a little bit of a silly manoeuvre to make, and so he didn't do it. Out through the second half of the lap they'll go. The top 3 maybe showing themselves to be slightly stronger than the others. Patrick Charlton especially, who was dispatched by Paul Crabb around this section of the lap 1 lap ago. But now the top 3 even getting away from the rest. Daan Webster's looking strong here, and he's looking for maybe a position, weaving around as Edwards tries to break the slipstream. More than one move to the right hand side from him. Bousson does the same as well to grab the slipstream. Webster's going to have to go for it somewhere, but Sunset Bend isn't much of a braking zone. He can't get through on this occasion. They'll go onto the front straight and they'll be as they were. Edwards really weaving to break the slipstream here.
Yeah, he's trying his hardest, but look at everybody closing up. Crab's just set the fastest lap of the race on a 1:52.95. This battle could just not be 3, it could be 4, and if Charlton can get involved as well, it could be 5. We've only got 3 laps remaining here. This is what this is going to be like. Imagine what the 12-lap feature is going to be like. It's going to be absolutely manic. And at the moment, Dave Kirkman is sitting in pole position for the feature, so it's going to be even tighter.
And there's a big fight for 10th place right now, going all the way back to George Gonzaga there for that 10th place. There it is, there's the shot, and there's the 5 of them, all fighting for that pole position. That is going to be a fierce one to watch out for the remainder of this race. Fastest lap of anyone last time around, though, went to Paul Crabb, currently sitting in 4th. He's the only man top 5 in points who's also top 5 in this race. It's been such a topsy-turvy season so far. Nobody emerging as the dominant force, even with Dan Webster's 2 wins at Road America in one day. He didn't turn up at Zandvoort and suddenly falls down. Of course, the drop weeks will save him a little bit there, but even so, it does show there is no dominant force in this season, and he's getting a royal challenge right now from Simon Edwards and also from Mike Poussin as well, who keeps the grass on the way into Le Mans and somehow saves it. Edwards gets a gap opened, and now Webster's gone. He tries to go through. Webster's gone to the outside line. He spins as well. He'll drop outside the top 5.
Yeah, McHutchinson is going to go past Woodward. Kirkman also probably should be able to get through as well, as Webster's not up to speed. Kirkman's not going to make it through, but he has just dropped past Woodward and Paul Clark and John McHutchinson as well. And there is the Scotsman there. Coming or late at the back of the grid, currently up 15 places, but George Gonzaga is making a move past Paul Godden there as well from one of our primary sponsors, of course, Sim Stickers. Check them out, the link is down in the description below, as well as iLounge Racing and HPE Automotive. But his Paul Clark has got another one. He's got Robert Woodward tucked up right behind him.
Here it is, Paul Clark, notoriously difficult to overtake, and him and John McHutchison have got a bit of history indeed, but McHutchison was able to get through up into 6th place. Well, it was 7th at the time, they're now in 6th as a result of Dan Webster going off, but there it is. Paul Clark is indeed difficult to overtake, and so Robert Woodward is probably going to find this difficult, I would argue. Let's see though, in towards the hairpin, no move there. It does feel there's a slight calming down now. The first moments were complete chaos really in this race, but it's calmed down a little bit just for the moment.
Yeah, it definitely has. I think we can have a look back, and as it starts to settle down a little bit, we can have a look at where Paul LeMay went off right at the beginning here this evening. So it goes off here. Oh, there was contact. Charlton,
okay. Yeah, he might well receive a penalty for that, because there was certain contact there, and Paul LeMay served off the road pretty unceremoniously, really. George Gonzaga was also involved in some of the carnage. He was one of the 4 drivers to go around on this opening lap, and he also got hit in a very similar way.
Graham Brown, I think that was as well. Phil Glover hit the brakes, managed to avoid them. But yeah, seems to be a lot of contact at the back, mistaken of braking zones, and unfortunately they've got down the order. Gonzaga is battling away here with Phil Jocelyn as they're coming down to the final sunset bend.
Side by side it is for 12th place, and George Gonzaga should be able to get through there, and he does indeed for that position. Has had a good opening to this season, so we'll want to continue that, but I don't think he'll be able to benefit from the reverse grid here, I'm afraid, on this one. He's going to have to do it the hard way, do it the old-fashioned way, I guess you could say, and move through the field from where he finishes in this race right here. Top 3 still relatively close together, although Simon Edwards has had a bit of a gap opened in the last couple of moments as the 2 Browns battle in towards turn 3 right now. Graham Brown has been overtaken by Seth Brown, who's arguably just that little bit quicker.
Yeah, it definitely is as well. Obviously, Graham was involved in the incident at the beginning. Kirkman has got Darryl Taylor for company. So Kirkman and Taylor in 10th and 11th place at this moment in time. So let's see how they get on and see how we go here as well.
see. And towards turn 10 they go. Oh, and off the road for Kirkman. And that was from pole position in race 2. He's gone off. Darrell Taylor will now take that one. Gonzaga will now fancy his chances for another position here. And that's got to be disappointing for Kirkman, who's, as I say, was in that pole position for race 2, but he's thrown that away now, and it's a difficult gap to cross now with this amount of time remaining.
Yeah, Darrell Taylor will be currently sitting in pole. We've got Luke Maxwell chasing down Patrick Charlton. Of course, Charlton involved with Paul LeMay right at the beginning there, and it was unfortunately Charlton who tapped LeMay up in the rear, and that pushed him off track. Dan Webster, of course, trying to make his way back through. Final lap of the race. Webster Woodward going side by Sunset here, and they're going to continue this down that start-finish straight.
Lots of waving around there is as well. Webster should be able to get through on Woodward here if he'd base it off qualifying times and raw pace, but it's not played out on paper. Side by side into turn 1, Webster very tentative and Woodward very committed. In the end, 8th place remains with Robert Woodward, and I think Dan Webster might only be able to get 8th place at best here, because there is, well, we are on the final lap right now.
Yeah, and to be fair, I wouldn't overly worry about it from Dan Webster's point of view, partly because he's going to start on the front row for the next one. So from that point of view, from Dan Webster's point of view, I wouldn't necessarily, if at all, have to push this scenario due to the fact that I'm going to be on the front row for race 2. So from his point of view, is it worth going back a row? He might as well stay where behind Woodward for the rest of this lap, really.
Well, on the counter to that, remember how close it was last season. Every point is going to matter here, and so he is going to want them. 1 point available, or 1 more point available for Webster, and he's going to take it up the inside in towards turn 10, and that's now 13 points to his name here in this one, as opposed to the 12 that he previously held. But he's up now to 8th, and that should be it for the race from him now. Further up, Simon Edwards still under pressure, right to the line here from Mike Booson, who's throwing everything at this, and there's going to be weaving to block the slipstream, to break the slipstream as well from the 5-time champion, but this should be enough for Simon Edwards' first win of the season. Into Sunset Bend they're going to go. Mike Booson's going to have to dive from a very long way back, and he's not going to do it, even if Simon Edwards did leave the door slightly ajar. He's not going to be overtaken here, and he's going to take his first win of the season. Simon Edwards ahead of Mike Booson and Paul Crabb. It's a very small margin over the line, but the inevitable race win of Simon Edwards finally comes at round 3.
Yeah, you got to think as well, he was weaving like he was knitting a jumper there, wasn't he, like my grandma? He was weaving all over the place to try and stop that run in. Seth Brown's, looks like he may have made a mistake coming around the final corner. He's lost that down as well. They're on that run down into the line. Is it going to be Graham Brown? Seth Brown is going to be Graham Brown this time around as well. So there we go. Paul LeMay is back out on track. He's coming across the line now. So unfortunately for Paul LeMay, and then we've got Beasley and Palmer coming across the line together.
Side by side over the line, and Wayne Palmer picking up no points for his efforts in this sprint race. Paul LeMay only 3 as championship leader. Simon Edwards takes the full 25 though, just ahead of Mike Booson and Paul Crabb, very close to the line between them. Luke Maxwell recovers to 4th place after a poor start, with Patrick Charlton rounding out the top 5. John McCutcheon gains 15 places to get up to 6th ahead of Paul Clark. Then it was Dan Webster who recovered to 8th after his incident at the final chicane, with Robert Woodward and Darrell Taylor on the front row for the second race. Dave Kirkman just missed out with that late mistake. George Gonzaga will be disappointed with 12 you'd imagine. Bill Jocelyn, Paul Godden and Phil Glover inside the top 15. Then it was the 2 Browns in 16th and 17th. Graham followed by Seth. Then Paul LeMay down in 18th, last car on the lead lap. Colin Wynn, David Beasley and Wayne Palmer all got to the finish, albeit 1 lap down in the end as a result of contact generally on lap 1. That was a very interesting race, those first 7 laps. Very enjoyable indeed. And now we've got 5 more.
Yeah, we're going out to 12 now, so it's going to be even more exciting. But it was interesting the fact that the guys on the front row literally didn't go anywhere. So, I mean, Paul, no, they didn't move. Like, they were overtaken before they even got down into the first corner from the guys in the second row, and then it kind of just put him under stress. Yes, obviously, Paul LeMay, got a tap in the rear by Patrick Charlton there as well. So I'm sure that will be looked at. But at the end of the day, I think it was just an outbreaking situation of himself there as well. And unfortunately for Patrick Charlton, it did mean contact with Paul LeMay. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they get on and whether or not now what happens with Edwards being down in 10th and is he going to be able to make his way through, because there's still some quick guys in front of him, John McHutchinson or Maxwell, they're all going to be in front of him, so it's going to be tough for him to get through.
It's going to be tough for everyone, I think, and I wonder if that is the curse of the front row that we're going to see. The front row once again going nowhere, or whether we're going to get a bit of a better start on this occasion for the pole sitter, who will be Darrell Taylor, as we're going to see very shortly. But yeah, we're not far away from race 2. 12 laps, reverse grid, and these are where more points are available. Darrell Taylor, Robert Woodward on the front row, with Dan Webster one to watch from third. Paul Clark will be 4th, ahead of John McHutchison, also one to watch from 5th. Patrick Charlton will be 6th, ahead of Luke Maxwell. Then it will be Paul Crabb, Mike Bousson and Simon Edwards rounding out the top 10. Dave Kirkman and George Gonzaga will be sharing row 6. Then it will be Phil Justin with Paul Godden. Phil Glover in the top 15, ahead of Graham Brown and Seth Brown. Paul LeMay 18th, ahead of Colin Wynne and David Beasley, rounding out the top 20, with Wayne Palmer bringing up the rear of this field. So, 12 laps, more points available, but Sebring once again, and hopefully a cleaner start, because that was quite unusual, really, for this series to see quite so much chaos on lap 1. What will it be this time with the new pairing of Darrell Taylor and Robert Woodward on the front row together? The lights will go out here at Sebring, and once again the pole sitter goes nowhere. Dan Webster learns from his mistakes this time, and he's gone to the front. John McHutchison from 5th also looking for 2nd. It's 4 wide towards turn 1. The Scotsman on the inside is going to take 2nd place. A great start from himself, and Webster, we've got contact. Patrick Charlton's around, John McHutchison is as well. It's carnage again. Dave Kirkman, another. Darrell Taylor's off as well. The curse of the front row continues at Sebring as Dan Webster opens up a big lead on lap 1.
Yeah, McHutchison, Kirkman, Gonzaga, all involved. Darrell Taylor, for the likes of it at the same time, was off as well. And unfortunately, that is what happens at a tricky circuit. Webster's come off. Maxwell.
Off the road, unforced error as well for Luke Maxwell, as Mike Bouson's already up to 2nd place. Luke Maxwell spins on his own entirely. He's down to 20th place. Bousson up to 2nd. Paul Crabb's on the podium provisionally already, and Simon Edwards is up to 4th as well. The front runners have got back to the front alarmingly quickly. Oh.
Yeah, very quick there.
Who was that? Someone went very wide there. I don't know if they went fully off. Sorry, I thought I saw someone in the wall in the background there, but apparently not. But yes, the top 4 already to the front from the back of the top 10.
Yeah, it looks like Paul Clark's got damage all at the same time there as well. His wings looking up in the air currently at the same time. Paul got on Seth Brown, Colin Wynne, and also Patrick Charlton. These 4 are battling out as well. Wynn's looking to go in up the inside. He's going to have a go down Godden, down into Sunset, Ewan.
Well, that was very close, and thankfully they made it through. Colin Wynne to the inside. Phil Jocelyn maybe making it 3 wide. Oh, well, yeah, maybe. Into the final corner. Wynne makes sure that is not going to happen, and he'll take the inside. Jocelyn will also take the inside. He'll be up a place, and Paul Godden goes very wide through Sunset Bend. Wayne Palmer and Graham Brown just in behind there as well. Battling side by side in towards turn 1, with Paul LeMay having picked his way through the chaos to get up to 16th on this opening lap. It's not quite the progress that he would have wanted. He's up to 15th now, though, on the inside line at turn 1. He's on the inside at turn 3, and he'll have that position. He's up a place. Surprised he hasn't been able to make further progress, though.
Yeah, it depends on how much he got affected by what was going on at the beginning, wasn't it? If he got stuck and he was just stuck there, he wasn't going very far very, very quickly. So unfortunately, it depends on whether or not he was held up by what was happening before. You know, we got Mike Boost on Paul Crabb here in second and third respectively, and everybody is so close beyond that gap from ninth downwards. There is literally barely about 2.5 seconds from everyone, as you can see on your left hand side. Charlton 1.1 back from Glover, and then look at the gaps underneath that. It is incredible how close it is from round about here, and here they all come now. And just look at this is just incredible. Paul LeMay battling away with the two Sim Stickers boys of Wayne Palmer and Paul Godden.
Yeah, if anything, this is good news for Paul LeMay, because it means he doesn't have much of a gap to cross in between making overtakes here as he tries to move through the order. But compared to his qualifying pace, he really doesn't seem to be able to get up through the order maybe as quickly as he would like here, although there is plenty of time in this race for him to do that. Through Le Mans they go, and even a dive here at turn 15. You don't often see that work out, because it's a risky one to make, but Wayne Palmer gave him more than enough room, and Paul LeMay's upper place as Paul Clark continues to battle with that damaged rear wing. You can be sure that is probably holding him back right now.
Yeah, he's been hit, isn't he? He's clearly been hit behind. Look at the indent on the rear end of his car here. We could jump on the nose with Robert Woodward, and we'll probably be able to see it. Well, no, we're not, because we're going to go side by side down into turn one. Woodward on the left, Clark on the right. Gonzaga's looking to put it in at the same time, and it is Woodward through.
Down the inside he goes, up to the top 5. George Gonzaga will also try this one. Inside line at turn 3. They're both looking, in the end, the car of Gonzaga pulling back into line, and probably the sensible thing to do is Phil Glover runs in the top 10 right now, closing on these guys as well. We look at the nose now of George Gonzaga, and more importantly at the rear of Paul Clark. That's holding him back. His straight line speed is ruined as well. Outside line for Gonzaga. He won't be able to do it there. Clark brakes very late, but it pulls it up in time, and he'll stay in front. But with straight line speed like that, he is going to have a difficult race.
Yeah, he's going to be eating every single lap, I think, depending on how close the people are behind him, of course. From Paul Clark's point of view, he's going to have to defend like crazy. He's planting the car in the middle of the circuit. He knows where to put it. We know he's difficult to overtake. We've said it all season long last season, and he is a master of where just to place the car to make it more difficult. Now, from our point of view, that's what they call racing. It's not the fact that he has to move over. It's not the fact that he's got damage. He doesn't need to be a puppy and get his tummy tickled, roll over and let them go past. He can put that car where he needs to stop them. He is racing at the end of the day, and from Gonzaga's point of view, he's got to make his way through, and that's the hardest thing.
It is difficult to do, and the gap just extending there. Paul Godden just drops to the back of that group for 8th place. That's just one big line at the moment of 11 cars. He's dropped to the back of it. Wayne Palmer gets through. McCutcheon, Brown, Taylor, they've all gone through. And within it right now is the battle between Phil Jocelyn and Paul LeMay. McCutcheon to the inside of Palmer as well, in towards the final corner, and he's back up to 14th as well, after spinning off at the front, at turn 1, I should say. Can't even say all those words in one go. Michael... I'm getting my LeMays mixed up as well. Paul LeMay is on the back of Phil Jocelyn, and he's looking for a move at turn 3. He's almost pulling out of line immediately as Seth Brown defends from Colin Wynn behind. There's the move from Paul LeMay. He's up to 12th place, and John McCutcheon might well follow through as well. Inside line at turn 5, you don't see very often, but Jocelyn loses 2 places in about 3 corners.
Yeah, he does, but it's going to be here that's going to be causing the problem. Look at this one with Phil Glover as well. Seth Brown, Colin Wynn right behind him at the same time. Yowzers. That could have been a lot worse.
McCutcheon's off at the hairpin. He was side by side with Jocelyn at the time, and there it is. McCutcheon down to 19th, and Colin Wynn and Seth Brown battle as a result as well. Well, not as a result, but separately. Seth Brown gets through inside the top 10. There's so much going on in this race right now. It is hard to know where to look, but Jocelyn was definitely side by side with McCutcheon, and now the Scotsman's off the road in 19th place. So I can only draw one conclusion really as to what's happened there.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a look. We'll try and find it here. It's got to be here somewhere, but there's so much going on. It really would be a quick one.
Oh, it's on his own.
On his own?
He sent it in. And, well, I was expecting contact. In the end, it was An honest mistake, really, from Hutchison. Just threw it in way too deep at the hairpin and caught the grass, went around, and now he's undone a lot of his hard work so far. Still not as far down as Luke Maxwell, though, who just gets in, well, side by side with Dave Kirkman. 20th place might be the best that Maxwell can get from this race, and that's going to be a big disappointment to him.
Yeah, he's going to be trying to get down into the final corner, which he is done. Oh, no, he's not. I thought he pulled out there. He's almost pulled out and then stopped. That was very bizarre.
Oh, still not going down the inside of the final corner. Would expect him to be a little bit more convincing than this, but and not even now, Kirkman with a strange line on the exit. And,
I don't think Maxwell's got the
stranger
pace.
one. That's bizarre. It's bizarre. Oh, Colin Wynn's off as well. Colin Wynn's off. I think that might be down the hairpin again as well. Oh, Paul LeMay, it's at turn 5 instead. Paul LeMay's off. Is he beached on the curb? No, he's just waiting for a bit of space there to get going again. Down to 17th goes Paul LeMay. He has had a disaster of a day.
Yeah, and it's gutted as well because he was on pole for race 1 and he didn't go anywhere. This battle is still looming on here with Darrell Taylor, who is fighting away with Paul Godden. Let's see how this one's going to pan out. They are going to be side by side. We jump in the car with Darrell. He's got to leave room. We know Paul Godden's there. Is he going to be able to get through here? He is. So that is Darrell Taylor up. Phil Jocelyn is another one tucked up with Wayne Palmer.
Well, this is where the action is. This is where you want to be. Just outside the top 10, bizarrely, because this is where all the battling is. Seth Brown at the front of the train, although he's getting away from it, really. It's Phil Jocelyn and Wayne Palmer who are fighting at the front. Then Graham Brown, Darrell Taylor, Paul Godden, all here as well. But plenty of incidents and accidents, I'm afraid, for those behind. Colin Wynn still in pit lane and has returned to pit lane, towed back to pit lane actually on this lap. As a result of damage, I would presume. So looks like he'll be finishing down in 21st. But Wayne Palmer makes his way to the outside line. It was a nice qualifying from him, well inside the top 10. He's roared around the outside, maybe a little bit too much at Sunset Bend. And yes, it was too much in the end. He's just about going to get cut off by Jocelyn, but he'll switch to the other side now. It's outside line again, but this time at turn 1, as Seth Brown gives the slipstream to Jocelyn, who will try the outside himself. Brown made a big mistake through Sunset on that last lap, and now he's... Oh, dear! Big contact with multiple cars, and Palmer gets smashed again by Paul Godden. 4 of them all in contact through turn 1. That was a big concertina effect in full motion, and many damaged cars after that one.
Look like Taylor, Godden, Palmer, Brown all at the same time.
Well, that was quite a concertina effect. The car at the front, Seth Brown getting things slightly wrong. Phil Jocelyn had to slow up a little bit more, then he got hit, and then whoever hit him got hit, and then so on, for 4 of them. And Godden, Brown and Palmer all find themselves down pit lane right now with... Who was it? Maybe... Well, one of them... Darrell Taylor, the only survivor, really. He smashes it, and Paul Godden absolutely pile drives Wayne Palmer there. 5 of them indeed, not 4. 5 of them involved in contact there, all with damage. Some of them get back going again, but many returning to pit lane. Graham Brown already out of the race.
Yeah, and they do say don't hit your teammate. And unfortunately for Godden, he didn't just hit Palmer, he sent him up into a different dimension there. So unfortunate for him. Gonzaga's having this nice little tidy battle with Woodward currently down in 5th and 6th respectively. And of course we've got Crab and Boots on. We haven't really seen much of them. Edwards is down in 4th. Webster's out in front at the moment as well. So it's all kind of going off here on lap 7 with 5 remaining.
Well, yeah, these two have been this close, I guess, previously, but they've not really been doing anything.
No.
Paul Crab not really able to get through for the moment, maybe unwilling to as well. Wants to try and catch Webster, but that's looking like a difficult task right now. Woodward and Gonzaga also pretty close together in that battle for 5th place. So there are a couple of battles, and as someone in chat pointing out, Paul LeMay is now up to 12th place. So even after the disasters of today, all of that contact has resulted in quite a lot of positions for him, and he's not far off David Beasley as well.
Yeah, hopefully from his point of view, he may be able to get Beasley here as well. Beasley's up the road. Obviously, we know LeMay has been quick. He was quick in quali. He took pole, didn't go anywhere race 1. And then obviously in the feature, well, we saw that. So unfortunately, not a great day for Paul LeMay, but overall, he's going to be probably more happy with 12th if he can get 11th than he would be previously about probably 5-10 minutes ago. So from that point of view, fair play to Paul LeMay as such.
Yeah, it's not going to be the biggest points for haul for him today. He won't score more than 30, you would imagine, and might well lose upwards of 20 on some of his main rivals here, but it's not a disaster, and it's about getting yourself that safety net. There are 3 drop weeks, we'll call them, drop rounds in this series, but you don't want to just throw them away with 0 point scores, because then you've got no safety net going into the final rounds. You want the best drop scores possible, so that you've got something to fall back on if something goes wrong later on in the season. So that's what LeMay is fighting for realistically right now, because if he's a realistic championship contender, then this round probably won't count towards his overall score if he's going to be up there. Just on the back of David Beasley right now through Le Mans, and it's a better exit from him and a nice slipstream as well down in towards Sunset. I don't know how much David Beasley is going to really fight this one, given there's still 5 laps to go at the line right now, and there's a clear pace difference between the two of them, as you would expect, because Paul LeMay was the pole sitter about half an hour ago. Now he is back into 11th place, although even a top 10 right now is looking like a stretch.
Yeah, well, he's got about 7 seconds up the road, unfortunately, to Brown, so I think that one is looking a little bit more impossible. The question will be is whether or not he can hold Beasley back for a lap and then start opening the gap up at the moment, which we're hoping he will be able to do. Beasley's there, of course. He's going to find this tough, I think, with LeMay. LeMay was, as I say, quick. He's pulled out 7 tenths already. I think it's going to be a tough one for Beasley to hang on to him. Further up the field, we've got Robert Edwards and George Gonzaga battling away battling away quite nicely for 5th and 6th.
Here we are. It's probably the most likely, in my opinion anyway, the most likely positional battle to actually change here inside the top 10. Well, inside the field actually, because there's quite some big gaps further behind now, although Luke Maxwell's closing on Phil Jocelyn and might well be able to get up back to 13th. That's another point, I guess. We're talking about those names that qualified up towards the front and have had difficult days. Luke Maxwell being another one of those here in race 2. But all of the chaos, especially that 5-car incident a few moments ago at turn number 1, has really benefited him, and he might be able to gain another position as well.
Yeah, we'll just see how this one works out and see how it goes, really. See what we can do here this evening as well. Don't forget, we've got sort of the likes of Seth Brown still mixing it up with Phil Glover. Glover is sitting here currently at the moment. We'll see if we can bring him in to the booth for a chat. He does obviously sit there waiting for us generally to pull him in. I'll have a quick chat with Phil now. Ewan, he's in the booth for you now.
Yeah, Phil, how's it going out there? Seth Brown not far behind you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's very bumpy. Yeah, it's. I wish I'd turned my heave down on the motion simulator. I'm getting bounced all over the place.
All right, Phil, we'll let you get back to it. I know there's a bit of a battle going on right now, so good luck. Hopefully you can hold on to this 9th place, and we'll speak to you at the end.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Phil Glover there. Nice, but don't want to disturb him too much, to be honest. He sounds like he's going through it.
Well, the thing is, the words there of motion simulator. What? Yeah. I've seen Phil, right, in real life. He ain't a short guy. I'm telling you that. I'm 6'1", and I was looking up at him. So, God knows what's happening in that motion simulator there, if that's what he's got in his house, because a bumpy track like Sebring, he's got to be rattling his dentures out more than anything else on that one.
Got a big house, I guess.
I tell you what, mate, he's going through it. If he's in a motion sim at Sebring in an SR8,
I know.
He's sitting there like, yeah, I'm fine. It's like...
Yeah, I forgot really, because we talk about the bumps so often at Sebring that I often get tired of it, and I just don't mention it because I'm just so tired of the bumps, to be honest. Especially in March when there's so much racing at Sebring going on all at once. It gets a bit tiring, to be honest. I forgot about that though. I also didn't really fully realise that he was in a motion sim either. But that's going to be a real difficult one for him, because that is going to be simulating every bump around here. And so I didn't want to disturb him too much, because he's in 9th place and he's having a great drive actually inside the top 10 for Phil Glover. he should be very pleased with that if he can hold it to the line.
Well, he's opened up a 1.6 second gap since we spoke to him, so, probably not a bad thing. But it is here with Buson and Crab, where the battle's happening for the top three. Webster's kind of checked out 2.6 seconds. Now, RS98, I can see your question. Unfortunately, that's not something we're able to see currently at the moment, whether or not we can have a look at the rear end of LeMay's car, not without going into some funky camera angle that we don't normally use. So we can only but presume he might have, but we're not entirely 100% sure whether or not Paul LeMay has got damage on the back end. David Beasley's gone plummeting down the order as well. Unfortunately for him, it looks like he's had an incident as well.
Possibly. I thought he just came in pit lane and that's why he was going down the order, but maybe not. Maybe he did have an issue there. John McCutcheon not far behind. Oh dear! He was behind Dave Kirkman. He's off the road now at turn 1 for the second time today, and that will be the end of his day as well. John McCutcheon, he drops down the order. It was a battle. He goes for the inside line in towards turn 3, and just being caught out ever so slightly by the box. A slightly different line. You have to adjust for it, and in the end, McCutcheon off the road and in the wall. That'll be the end of his day.
Yeah, he's had a rotten race there, as the Scotsman had. Not going to lie, for McCutcheon. He's not been overall a great day for him, shall we say. But then again, he did start from the back and worked his way through. So I suppose on that one, it was a bit of a bonus.
Absolutely. He certainly had a good race 1, race 2. Probably to forget about, really. And when it's all said and done. Mike Buchanan still second place. Nobody getting near Dan Webster here, but with 2 laps to go, there's going to be a good fight for second. Paul Crabb likely going to be new championship leader as well by the end of this one, and no matter which way this battle goes, because he's having a fantastic time of things once again. Second place in points coming in here, and with a double podium on the horizon, it's possible as out the pit lane there. I think that was Beasley coming out of pit lane right into the path of these guys. Buxton getting a bit of a fright, and now he's really got pressure from Paul Crabb behind, and Simon Edwards lurking as well, although he's more than a second and a half back.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be really putting Edwards into the mix on this one. I think it's going to be the Crab-Buson battle. It's whether or not when Crab's going to make that move and how he's going to make that move, whether or not he's going to do it down the final run, down the Allman, of course, into Sunset, or if he's going to try and not do it. We don't really know. Obviously, we know he's going to be championship leader. He's going to be top of the timing tower. LeMay is currently down in 11th place at the moment, half second back from Brown, so that might be one we will keep an eye on as well. But it is going to be here at the moment as Crab does go in a little bit hot coming through there. So unfortunately for him, up in turn 10, he went a little bit more tasty than he needs to.
Well, he's been behind here for so many laps now, Paul Crabb, but has just not been able to find a way through. You get the feeling that with every lap that passes right now, and there's only one more to go, Mike Pearson is finding this easier and easier to defend from because he's not seeing anything new, and Crabb is not really getting close to making an overtake. I don't think we've seen him even alongside yet this race.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to be able to. I'm not going to say he's definitely not going to be able to do it, but it doesn't look like he's making that impression into wanting to do it. We talk about car position and we talk about other things as well. And at the end of the day, Woodward looks like he's trying to fight with Gonzaga here. At the same time, Paul LeMay has got Seth Brown just up the road as well. The gap up front's about half a second at the moment. Edwards going to come across the line. Not Edwards. Webster's going to come across the line, take the fastest, take the white flag. So onwards and upwards we go, and
Paul LeMay off the road and nudges the wall as well. He'll try and get back going again before Maxwell gets hit, but that could be close. Well, he's going to be out just in time, I think.
Yeah, and he has got damage on that right rear. If you look at his right rear wheel arch.
Yes, he has, yeah. Maybe that is what caused that spin indeed as well, losing the rear on traction there, but could be a battle between himself and Luke Maxwell to the line as Dave Kirkman and Phil Justin also battle to the line. Justin also with rear end damage, a little bit more obvious this time.
Yeah, when your wing's going in that angle, you kind of know you've got an issue, do you know what I mean? It's not like he can't look back at his rear and see, but he's going to obviously not. He just obviously won't see it as much as we can here. Obviously, we're looking back at him. So, unfortunately for Jocelyn, it looks like he's got a problem, and it looks like that car is being a little bit more tougher to handle than it normally would be.
I'm glad that the new cars in iRacing don't do that anymore because carbon fibre doesn't bend, famously. And so, I don't know why the rear wings ever did that, but they don't anymore. Unless it's an older car, as this one is, just a little bit. So there we are. But thing of the past for the most part. Mike Bousson still with a job on here to defend from Paul Crabb, who's very close, and maybe there'll be a dive here. He'll get the wider, more open line through turn 15, but he falls back. And surely that will settle it now, as just in the foreground, Dan Webster is going towards the final corner. He won 2 in a row at Road America, getting this season off to the best possible start. And it looks like he's going to take his 3rd win in 4 races. Dan Webster's going to be a force to be reckoned with in Season 2 of 2023. He takes the win at Sebring, spinning and sliding across the line as he goes ahead of Mike Bousson, Paul Crabb and Simon Edwards. And oh my goodness me, that was quite a crash over the line. I think Dan Webster just got launched into the crowd, but he doesn't care. He'll be celebrating with them now with his 3rd win in 4 participations this season.
Yeah. Absolutely stellar race from Dan Webster there as well, doing an absolute stellar job. It's going to be down with Brown here. How is he going to get on as he's got Phil Glover in front of him? Phil looks like he's going to hold on as he's going to come across the line in 9th place. Luke Maxwell did manage to gain up into 12th in the end, but he has got Paul LeMay in front of him, and it looks like LeMay's going to hold him off for that 11th and 12th position respectively, of course. Kurtman's going to come across the line after that.
Yeah, to bring up the rear. Kirkman just seeing off Phil Jocelyn to the line there. And they're all ahead of Darrell Taylor by around 25 seconds. Phil Glover did manage to hold on to 9th place there, by the way. So we'll be able to talk to him about that in a few moments' time when we get through some of the podium drivers as well. I'm sure Dan Webster will be joining us again. And we'll be very pleased with his evening's work, as that is now 3 rounds down in the Season 2 of 2023, a quarter of the way there in what's shaping up to be a very, very interesting season. Dan Webster with the win, though. Head of Mike Bousson, who saw Paul Crabb and Simon Edwards to the line. George Gonzaga did indeed get into the top 5 late on ahead of Robert Woodward. Paul Clark finished 7th as he was running for most of the day, with Patrick Charlton, Phil Glover and Seth Brown rounding out the top 10. Paul LeMay just got ahead of Luke Maxwell to finish 11th. Then it was Dave Kirkman and Phil Jocelyn fighting as well. Darrell Taylor, the last driver on the lead lap. David Beasley and Paul Godden did return from pit lane to finish 1 lap down. John McCutcheon didn't return after that spin at turn 1. Wayne Palmer, Graham Brown and Colin Wynn all ended the race in pit lane with damage to their cars. And some quite significant damage for some of them as well.
Yeah.
Well, another very interesting reverse grid race, proving that this format is very welcome in this series.
Oh, I think this format absolutely is made for this series, really. I think there's no question about it. Absolutely stellar job, and I think it's great that they've adapted this format and made it is what it is, because now it's producing absolutely some epic racing. And I believe you got Mike Bousson waiting in the booth for you there, Ewan.
We certainly do. Mike Bousson, 2nd place at the end of race 2, and he joins us now. Mike, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here for the first time this season. I know you, well, I believe so anyway, unless I'm forgetting last week. 2nd place here in race 2. How was the reverse grid race, especially with some real carnage that went on lap 1 in both races today?
Yeah, good evening, chaps. Yeah, 2 good races. First sprint, I was unlucky. I think I dipped the wheel and obviously had a bit of a slide. Otherwise, I thought I had to add potential of maybe getting Simon, but wasn't to be. And the second race obviously looked into a little bit of carnage in the first corner, which made my life a little bit easier. And then couldn't probably had the pace for Dan, but with Paul in me mirrors, it was very distracting, and I just started to unravel a little bit.
Absolutely. It was a good battle in the end, but you managed to hold on. You mentioned, though, the carnage a little bit at the start of both races. Why do you think it is at this circuit we've got that particularly? Because I don't remember the last time we saw lap 1s like that in this series. I mean, ever, really. Why do you think that was?
I think it's just a surface type, because in the past it's been a little bit hit and miss whether people get a good launch off there or they just will spin up, and obviously there's a few different lines in that first corner, and it all bunches up a little bit because obviously you can't really see each other side by side even if you've got triples. So I think it's varying lines, and obviously everyone wanting to try and make up spots in the first corner.
Just before we let you go, Mike, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
As per usual, I've not really prepared anything in my head, so I'll go Team Radline. Good racing with Paul tonight.
Absolutely, it certainly was. Mike, congratulations on a successful evening, an enjoyable evening watching you out there, certainly, and hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Congratulations, and we'll see you again next week.
Yep, catch you soon, guys.
Thanks very much. Mike Boson, second place in race 2. And mixed fortune, certainly, for Dan Webster, who managed to win race 2, but was having a roller coaster of things in race 1. Dan, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here. A successful evening for you, or not? How do you feel about that one after race 2?
Yeah, really good. Bit disappointed with the first race, but these things happen. So it was my own fault, really, trying to avoid Mike having a little moment, and then I got a bit of a swapper on and overcooked it. So yeah, these things happen.
They certainly do. In terms of the rest of this season, how are you feeling going towards that? Because so far, there's not really... I know you've won 3 out of the 4 races you've been to, but it doesn't seem to be that there's any real one dominant driver, as we sometimes see in these seasons, even this early on. Do you think that will change in the coming rounds, or do you think it is just going to be carnage all season?
It's really close, isn't it? Definitely seems to be closer than the SR10s were. So yeah, I think the season will be fantastic. I mean, there's Paul LeMay was on pole. I think he was super quick in practice as well, and Mike, and yeah, there's a few guys out there that are really, really quick. So it's good. More the merrier.
Absolutely, it's fantastic news. Just before we let you go, Dan, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
It's the guys in the league, as always. They're the guys that make it as good as it is.
Absolutely,
yeah, definitely shout out to them.
Absolutely, it's great to see you back on top again here, Dan. Congratulations on the win in race 2 especially, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Brill, thanks guys.
Thanks very much. Dan Webster, victorious in race 2. Paul Crabb has been up there these last few weeks as well, and up there again today. 3rd place in race 2. Paul, welcome to the move once again. Another successful evening, a consistent evening once again, even without a race win in the end. How was that for you overall?
It was really good. I think I got lucky quite both starts. I messed up my quali. Completely. I could only manage to get 2 laps in instead of 3 because I crashed on my outlap. But I managed to dodge the spinning cars in both starts, and I kind of lucked into 3rd place both times, I think.
I think by my calculations, you will have accumulated the most points out of anyone out of these first 3 rounds. Do you feel a little bit more confident with this car compared to the SR10? I know the SR10 now, but I'm talking about the SR10 last season. Do you feel a bit more confident in this championship when we're using this car, or is it just kind of just this is how this season has gone? Really, it's nothing to do with the car.
It's definitely a bit to do with the car. The SR8 certainly suits my driving style a lot more. I'm able to use the rapid downshift to more effect than I could with the SR10. Whereas SR10 you had to trail brake more accurately and downshift a little bit. Whereas the SR8 you can rattle down the gears and use it almost like a trail into the corners. So it helps me a lot. I just like the extra aero and the extra grip, and the brakes are you can brake them much later and much deeper. So it suits me a lot better. Yeah.
Certainly seems to be. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Oh, that nice Mr. Webster bloke. He gave me a setup again.
There we are. Very helpful indeed. It's only helpful once you start beating him, and then things get a little bit, it gets a bit nervous. But there we are. Congratulations either way, Paul, on another successful evening, and we look forward to chatting to you again next week.
Okay, thank you, gents.
Thanks very much. Paul Crabb joining us there. We've got loads of people joining us this week, by the way. We will do Simon Edwards as well now, since he was up there in both races. Winner in race 1, 4th in race 2. Simon, welcome back to the series again after last week taking off. You've often explained your displeasure with this car, and I guess the fact that you don't quite like it very much. But you seem to be going quite well around here at Sebring today. Just how did it feel out there?
Well, I love the track, and I'd been doing the practice for the 12 hours, so the track was in my brain. So I just put the setup on that I'd run Road America at with no downforce on it, and sort of got it to work. So I was just doing it for a bit of fun to run no downforce around Sebring. It was pretty good fun.
Yeah, it looked like it certainly. What's the plan for the rest of the season now for you? Because I know, as you said there, you're not quite taking this one maybe as seriously as some seasons in past, and you're not enjoying the car as much. So, what is the plan for the rest of the 9 rounds we still have left?
Yeah, I don't enjoy the car because it's as unrealistic as you can get. It's got so much downforce, even when I've got no downforce on. There's so much underbody downforce, and it just feels like too much grip for me. I like a car that's, like the Formula Ford, no aero, nothing. But for the rest of the season, I'll do the tracks I really like. Barber's up next. I do enjoy Barber. If I can get the car to work quickly on it, just with a day or so's practice, I'll definitely come back for Barber. The SR10 might appear halfway through the season. We don't know yet. I'll just play it by ear.
That is true. We look forward to seeing you there whenever we do. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
I'll give a shout out to everybody I missed in that second race there. I think I took a few chances on that first lap, and everybody gave me some room, so I'll give a shout out to them.
It was quite an opening lap, that's for sure. Either way, Simon, congratulations on a successful evening, certainly in the SR8, and when we do see you next, we look forward to it. Thanks for chatting to us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks very much, Simon Edwards, there with one of the most successful evenings of anyone here today. Couple more to rattle through. We'll chat to Paul Godden, who now joins us as well. Paul, welcome to the booth for the first time. It's good to have you here. Unfortunately, that second race had one of the largest crashes I've ever seen within it, and I knew we were involved there as well. Just tell us a little bit about that second race.
Yeah, it was after first race, running around with Phil. I was all hyped for the second race and started next to him on the grid. So I thought, we're going to continue this. And I just went a little bit backwards at the beginning. I just kept getting bogged down out the corners, and where everyone was so close, they were coming past. And then I managed to get on the back of this train, and we were running around. There was about 5 or 6 of us, I think it was. And we're coming around the last corner. It was like 4 wide, 5 wide, all spread out. I went into turn 1. And it looked like, unfortunately, Wayne just kissed the back of, I think it was Phil's car. He lost it, and then that was it. The track was completely blocked. And I went for a gap, and then Wayne, my teammate, he rolled back off the track into me because I was going for the gap on the grass. And that was it. I damaged the car, and it was game over. And all of us were a bit gutted, I think, because it was a really enjoyable race. And I think it would have gone right to the end of the race, that one.
Yeah, we were certainly enjoying watching it as well. What's your plan for the remainder of this season, Paul? Because we haven't seen you too often in the past for this series. So what are you expecting from it, and what are you hoping for?
No, I'm all, extremely new to the car and the series. Basically, I just want to learn every race. The guys who have been racing, you can tell they've got so much respect. Like coming into, I think it was turn 1 to 5 on the first race, and the second race and the first lap, everyone was giving each other respect, and I was like, that's just so nice to see in a race series. Because they could have all gone a bit pear-shaped and took each other out. So it's just really learning how to race with them. The pace, I've got to find about a second really to be where I want to be. But that's going to take time over the season, and just banging the laps in and learning how to set the car up, and just enjoy it really.
Absolutely, we hope that you will. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out to James and yourself for doing a great commentary. I enjoy watching it back on the day after, and all the admin team, and in the Radical Race series, and also the drivers, because without them, it wouldn't be the series that it is. And I've obviously come into it very new with my teammate Wayne, and we've been welcomed. And and it seems to be going really well. And we look forward to this season and hopefully many more with them as well.
Absolutely, we very much look forward to it if that is the case. Paul, congratulations on a successful evening, and thanks very much for chatting to us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Paul Godden joining us there. And finally, we'll be joined by Phil Glover, who we got a brief chat to in the middle of the race. To be honest, Phil, I didn't want to disturb you too much while all that was going on. There was a big fight for ninth place, but you ended out just beating Seth Brown to the line there. How was race 2?
Well, we've not got a great track record when you talk to me, have we?
No, I know. I was scared. I had flashbacks.
No, it's fine. Yeah. Wasn't bad, was it? Started 15th, a reasonable start, I think. Yeah, I was running fairly low downforce, so I think that was helping, although obviously you lose a little bit in the corners. But yeah, I think Seth kept catching me up, and then I kept pulling away. So as long as I can maintain that gap, I was okay. At one point, I thought I might be able to catch Patrick, but in the end it wasn't to be.
Not quite. Just now that you've got a little bit more time to breathe and to talk as well, tell us a little bit about what having a motion sim was like around here, because Sebring's famously bumpy, of course. How was that simulated, and how did that feel across the second race especially, and the first one, I guess?
Well, I'm pleased I didn't have much for tea, that's for sure. It's yeah, it is quite bumpy, and I've got traction loss on this as well. So with the bumps and traction loss, it's a bit like being in a washing machine, to be honest.
Have you still got your teeth, Phil?
Well, I didn't have teeth to start off with, so
all the filling's still in place. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's fun, but like we've said before, less is often more, and you've just got to dial these down a bit sometimes. The biggest problem was the force feedback wheel, to be honest, because it's so bumpy. You're just catching your arms with the when you're not used to it. You catch, it's quite strong. But hey.
It is quite a test around here, really. Just before we let you go, Phil, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, my dad wasn't that well a little while ago, but he's now home from hospital, so it's good to have him back. And of course, a big thank you to both of you two for doing what you do for us.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Week in, week out, it's thoroughly enjoyable indeed. Phil, pleasure to talk to you again. We'll hopefully see you again next week.
Yeah, I think we're at Barber, is it, next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit smoother.
It is. You'll be glad to know. Thanks very much, Phil, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Cheers, and bye. See
you. And there we are. Phil Glover with a nice run today, inside the top 10 in race 2 as well. As I mentioned, forgot about the motion rig for him, to be honest, and he's going to be sore in the morning. I think we'll call it. But 3 rounds down in season 2 of 2023, and there's been 3 very enjoyable rounds. But as everyone's been mentioning, Barber Motorsports Park coming up next, which I don't remember being on the schedule for quite some time now, and so it's going to be a bit of a new challenge for these drivers adapting to a newish car again.
Yeah, it will be. It's like anything in a new car, a track that they haven't seen for a while. It's going to be exciting regardless, to be honest. And I think this season could be, right up there with the ones that we've already seen, because it's going to be tough for these guys, and it is going to be tough. I think, no offence to Simon Edwards here, but I think he's optimistic that the SR10 is going to return. I don't think it is. I think it's going to be staying as it is currently at this moment in time.
I think you might well be right, but as he said, you never know. You never know what can happen. So I'm not willing to write anything off, because to be honest, I didn't think we'd ever see this car again, and here we are. So we'll keep you updated, of course, week in, week out, as we bring you this series here on the JPB YouTube channel. But thanks to everybody who's been joining us here tonight. It's been a pleasure once again. Another enthralling round of the Radical Race series, and there'll be another one coming up in 7 days' time at Barber Motorsports Park. Make sure you tune into all the other broadcasts going on this week as well here on this YouTube channel. Very much worth keeping up with all the racing going on every single day. But for now, we'll bid you our farewells. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside James Parfitt, and until we see you again next week at Parfitt Motorsports Park, it's goodbye for now.